Due to the fact that they can no longer deceive men, modern women are upset about the new mandatory paternity test.
I think that the United States making DNA testing mandatory is stupid.
Apparently right now there's a huge debate on whether or not paternity tests should be mandatory.
In the event that your lady is guiltless, there ought not be any issue with getting a test.
So, I think it should be normal to DNA test after every birth.
30% of fathers who found out that they were not actually the biological father of their child.
A woman found out that her husband got a secret paternity test due to pressure from...
In the event that you're anticipating a kid in this age, you really want to get a paternity test.
So I'm kicking my husband out after he asked for a DNA test on our baby. Here go the last of your stuff. Don't come back.
Unfortunately, the courts don't feel this way. If you are married, like for instance, my husband and I are married, and I was to get pregnant by another man, he would be responsible for the child support for 18 years, even though it's not his child, because we're married. That's the way the court works. So messed up.
I think that the United States making DNA testing mandatory is stupid. I don't think that, it's something that if you feel like you need a DNA test, go do that on your own time because you feel that way. I don't think every person, there's millions of people in the United States. Like, it doesn't make sense that people could be using that time to do other things. Like, you could be saving a life. You could be in a hospital saving a life.
I personally pay taxes, and I care about where my money goes. I'm not here to pay for so-and-so because there's a confusion about who's the father. That's not my business. Handle your personal shit. And for me, I want to fund schools. I want to fund the MTA because the trains are never on time. We got bigger problems. We have bigger problems. I'm sorry. I'm not paying for no mandatory test.
Obviously, these women would consider the required testing to be foolish and pointless. My thing is, in the event that you didn't get anything to stow away, you didn't get anything to lose. Consider how many men are currently caring for a child who is not their own. The ladies that are against DNA testing are the ones crushing everybody. These ladies truly be telling on themselves. They never consider the single fathers.
That's 30% of all men who go to actually get paternity tested turn out to not be the father. So out of every 100, 30 of those will not be the dad. So it does leave me to wonder why, when a baby is born, why don't they just DNA test at that time? Understanding the fact that sometimes the dad's not involved, but that seems like it would clear up a whole bunch of issues. What's your thought? Should they require DNA testing at birth?
I'm just saying, do you think that it should be mandatory at birth?
In situations where you're a married person and you want a DNA test because you think someone's been unfaithful?
Well, I haven't personally, but I'm sure that there are a lot of people. As a matter of fact, 40% of DNA tests result in the man not being the father. So that's almost half.
Are you going to attack women right now, saying you're out here doing something you shouldn't be doing? Let's all test and make sure I'm the one who should be paying child support?
Yes! Well, I'm not trying to attack women. I'm just trying to, make sure that we have the right person on the birth certificate.
I don't think a birth certificate is that important when you're talking about lots of women who go in as single parents all the time.
Well, there are single fathers too, though.
Because they are aware that everyone had their turn. 304S only find DNA testing to be frightening. By asserting that the man is attacking women for asking if DNA testing should be legal, this woman attempted to reframe the conversation. In the event that you focused. Indeed, even her companions saw her like she was insane.
All right, so those of you who are in Tennessee, guess what? House Bill 2689 is getting ready to pass. That is requiring paternity tests before you sign the birth certificate. Because, when people do paternity tests, 1/3 of the time, they end up not being the father. And if they start testing everybody, that number can only go up, not down. It's going to be dramatic. And right now they're starting to also add in things like, maternity fraud is a crime and a punishable crime. So, guys used to go to jail for not paying child support on a child that wasn't theirs because the state wants to get their money. Because if there is no father to pay for the child support, somebody has to pay for it. So they push it on to the nearest person that can be a father figure. And they're actually starting to jail time the ladies for maternity fraud because it is such a rampant crime. And yes, it's a crime.
Something like this ought to have been included a long time ago. To be sincere, this here will show a portion of these ladies what taking responsibility and being answerable for their activities feels like. Honestly, this is the sort of thing that ought to be across the country. Everywhere, men are getting burned. However, actually a pity it's just a misdeed. Assuming a man would not pay kid support, that would be viewed as a crime, and he would have been tossed behind bars. Maternity misrepresentation ought to be a crime too.
I have been married for 51 years, got 2 sons, needed to take a test, found out something interesting. They ain't my kids. They're somebody else's. I do wish I knew who the real fathers were, and they ain't the same. She was bopping a couple of different guys. I mean, I stayed with her for the sake of the children. I've been in court thousands of times in paternity suits, and 4 out of 5 times, guy says he ain't the daddy, he's right. I'll go home, start drafting up some divorce papers. I'll need to go get your own paternity test.
And here we go again. But this time it's coming from a judge that's been married for over half a century. He needed his sons to get tested for a kidney transplant. And in doing so, he discovered that both of his sons do not belong to him. Both of them. Now, look at the age of this man. He said he's going to go home and draw up divorce papers. Imagine getting divorced at that age because you find out the children that you've loved for 40 plus years are not yours. And this man also has grandchildren and great-grandchildren. None of them share his DNA. So imagine becoming 70 plus years old and you think you have a whole legacy built of all these people that are now here on earth because of your DNA. But it's not. And he even alluded to the fact that both children might have also come from different men. Imagine that. In his video, he also stated that he presided over thousands of paternity cases, and that in 4 out of 5 of those cases, that the father was not the biological father. 4 out of 5.
A woman found out that her husband got a secret paternity test due to pressure from his family because of their daughter's darker skin color and curly hair. She posted to the relationship advice subreddit where she revealed that she's Brazilian American, but her husband is Serbian and very fair. When their daughter started developing her darker skin, his entire family made jokes about him not being the father. This mom found paternity test results in his phone and questioned him about it. And the dad revealed that his family was accusing her of cheating and pushed for the paternity test. On a daily basis, they were in this man's ear. He claims he got the paternity test to shut his family up. But he did it behind her back, and now she's hurt and angry about it. She feels betrayed by his family, who she thought truly loved and cherished her and her daughter. She's also convinced that her husband doesn't trust her and can't decide whether or not she should let it go. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't trust your spouse, the first person you should be talking to is your spouse. There is an expectation that your spouse will have your back, which includes stopping baseless attacks from extended family members. If this dad truly had concerns about his daughter's paternity, he should have discussed it with his wife. Getting a secret paternity test, that might cause some problems when it comes to light. What would you do in this situation?
How do you feel about a DNA test being mandatory for all dads? Ooh. And his story was he took care of a child for a substantial amount of time and later on ended up finding out that that child was not his. So he had to pay child support for this child. Of course, he had a very close relationship with this child. However, the mother of the child did not have to repay back any of that child support. So he's the one that's going through the emotional damage. He's the one that's damaged. And of course, the child is damaged.
I'm over here in the hospital, y'all.
finna give birth to his child, and he over here questioning me, talking about, is this really his baby? Like, what are you talking about? Do you really think I'm sitting here have you up here at the hospital and everything with me just for nothing? Are you serious right now? What kind of baby dad does that right when we finna have this baby? Like, are you serious? You really gonna sit here and question the baby talking about, oh, can you get DNA test? No, you're not getting no DNA test after this. I'm not doing that. This is your child. If you don't believe it's your child, then you could go ahead and go. I don't need you up here. Because all you're doing is stressing me out. Yeah, we are finna find out. And that's so weird for you to even be saying that, though. Why would you even say that?
New tonight, a bill proposed in the Tennessee state legislature could make it mandatory now for fathers out of wedlock to take a DNA test before signing a birth certificate.
Fox 13 government reporter Kayla Solomon joins us live. Kayla, this bill was discussed and passed in a House committee today. And, you know, it goes back. There have been advocates who said it could solve a lot of problems if it were just the first thing that happens for all babies.
That's right, Merle. And this is also coming on the heels of another child support reform bill that was recently passed that says if fathers fall behind too much on child support, they can now lose custody of their children. Now, I spoke to one Memphis representative who says this is specifically for couples who are not married.
Let a man ask me for a DNA test for a child that he knows is his because you only been met.
What's wrong with a man asking for a DNA test? He didn't carry that baby. He doesn't know what you did on days when he wasn't around. He just wants proof that the kid is his. By right, I think every man should be given a DNA test upon when a child is born so he doesn't spend the rest of his life raising a kid that doesn't belong to him. And why are we acting like there aren't women out here pinning kids on men that it doesn't belong to? My thing is, you went as far as saying it's embarrassing or he's trying to embarrass you when he asks for a DNA test. It's only embarrassing when you sleeping around and you know for a fact the baby not his. My thing is, why y'all so offended when they ask for a DNA test? If you know the baby is his, I don't think there is no offense behind it. Of course, he just won't prove the baby is his. What is wrong with that? I feel like women that get offended by men asking for DNA tests are women that sleep around with a lot of men and don't know who the father is, and they just tend to pin the baby on whoever.
All right, don't scroll away because I learned about another interesting law that's changing. Two of them, in fact. So the first one is that they are going to start mandating paternity tests at the time of birth for children. The reason why is when they do get maternity tests, turns out that 1/3 of the fathers are not the biological father. The other one is that they're going to be changing the child support laws so that if you can't collect child support unless it's from the biological father, and the biological father must have actually been a part of your life, meaning that a one-night stand cannot be held for child support. The person actually had to play a significant role in your life. So, I think the law is trying to incentivize that you stay loyal. Doesn't seem like a crazy change to me. What do you guys think about it?
I don't think there's any issue with a man taking care of another man's child. Women do it all the time, whether you know or not. He might bring another child and say, oh, I had this out of our wedlock, you know, what are we going to do? Or he's taking your money and paying child support to another family. You had no idea. So when we're just like jumping like, oh, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. Hold on. It's already being done.
And that wraps up today's episode of Manosphere Daily. If you enjoyed the content, give it a like. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified as soon as a new video is out. Share your thoughts in the comments below. See you all tomorrow.